Okay, welcome everyone to our Global Talent or Global Skills Strategy webinar. My name is Danielle Charney and I'll be the moderator, and I'm the Director of Talent Services here at MaRS. I'd like to welcome everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank VanHack really for getting this going, and our speakers, which I'll introduce from Invest Ottawa, EY, and Event Mobi. That is a MaRS-supported venture. What I hope you get out of this webinar is that you understand the practical details to the global skills strategy and whether your company should be leveraging this, and to hear from some early success stories. And that's why we have Event Mobi on the call. The agenda will be, I will speak a little bit about MaRS's role as a designated referral partner. Then Adam Dewar, who's the Business Development Manager for Invest Ottawa, will let us know what's happening in the tech scene there. Nadia Alibhai is the Senior Associate Lawyer at EY, and she'll talk about the Global Skills Strategy. And Ilya Brodsky is the CEO of VanHack, and he'll talk about how you can actually use VanHack to get a pool of great tech talent. And then over to Shade Agani, who's the Ops Manager at Event Mobi, who has utilized this program. So let me kick it off by saying that as part of what MaRS does, we have a talent services team. We support 500 high-growth companies. And part of that is to leverage the global talent stream that we're excited about. Our companies across ICT, health, and clean tech sectors. We see global skills strategy as a really crucial part of leveraging global talent, a global talent pool. Our companies don't always have the talent that they need. They, look in Canada, but for some recent conversations I've had with CEOs, one looking for a chief product officer who has scale-up experience within the B2B marketplace, looking outside of Canada, talking to a CEO of a biomedical company who has a senior sales role that they're looking to fill, and they need knowledge of the U.S. regulatory environment. So these are the kind of talent that kind of fall under Stream A, which Nadia will be going over. And then lots of demand for Stream B, which is that specialized technical talent. One of our MaRS supported venture recently hired a hardware engineer that they needed someone who had experience designing and building digital cameras. So lots of niche. Our role is to consult with these companies to understand whether this program makes sense for them. Are they eligible? What's the process? What's the timelines? And what are other alternatives? And also connect them with external partners like immigration lawyers. So we are a designated referral partner for Stream A. Again, Nadia will talk a little bit about that. And there's a number of other designated partners, such as Communitech, who work very closely with these high growth companies and understand a lot about their growth strategy and whether they fit into the program. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Adam, who, as I said, is from Invest Ottawa and will share with us in 5 minutes what is happening in the Ottawa tech scene and kind of innovation economy. Over to Adam.
Okay, thanks. So, like MaRS and Communitech and some of these other organizations, Invest Ottawa is a designated referral partner. And one of the things about this particular program is I think it comes at a fairly timely time for the Canadian.
Adam, we can't hear you. You might be on mute.
It just froze for a sec. Yeah, I'm surely back right away.
Okay. This is where you do your song and dance, but no one can hear you or see you.
Yeah, he just reset. He'll be right back.
He'll be right back. All right. So technical difficulties, but Adam will be right back. I think in terms of time, Adam, we're going to get maybe Nadia, you can kick us off, give us a overview of the program, and Adam then can come straight after you. Nadia, are you ready to go? And unmuted?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. You're on.
Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry, I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see the content. Can everyone see the slides?
Yep, it's working.
Perfect. So the slides have quite a bit of content on it. Just in an effort to go through this quickly, I just wanted to put more on the slides that I might be able to speak through. So as Danielle and Adam started mentioning, the Ottawa tech space is growing, and we'll let Adam speak to that more. But this is a welcomed addition to the immigration system in Canada. The clients we've talked to and the people we've talked to, a lot of the challenges prior to the global skills strategy was really having speed to deployment. So how do you get the right talent on the ground in an effective and timely manner? So we'll go through the global skills strategy, and I'm going to focus more on the global talent stream, so the ESDC administered pillar of the program. But I do want to spend a couple minutes just kind of talking through the IRCC part, because there is some really key components of this program that which do help the speed to deployment and do assist in other ways. Sorry, I'm just shifting slides. So under the IRCC, so this, just at a high level, is really for your LMIA exempt work permit, so your labor market impact assessment work permits. There's 3 prongs. So there is a dedicated service channel for high potential, high growth companies and for innovative companies. We call this the concierge service. And I'll speak to that a little bit more in a couple minutes. There's also the 2-week service standard for certain work permit applications. And this is a huge change. The global skills strategy it's been around probably just over 3 months now. And so we're really seeing some of these applications truly be processed in the 2 weeks. Again, I'll speak to this a little bit more in a second. And then the third pillar under the IRCC umbrella is the short-term work permit exemption. And then under ESDC, as Danielle mentioned, there is the global talent stream, of which there's 2 new categories. Category A for highly specialized temporary foreign workers, and then Category B for occupations on the global talent occupations list. So under IRCC, as we mentioned, the 2-week standard service standard is for LMIA exempt work permit applications, which are filed through a consulate outside of Canada online. So these apply for roles that are in occupation skill type O and occupation skill type A. So you may be wondering, like, why is this a big change? Historically, there's certain countries and visa offices around the world where you would have, for example, an intra-company transferee or some other type of LMIA exempt work permit, which would take 12, 16 weeks to process. And the processing, it was not always conducive to clients. They want speed to deployment. They need the talent on the ground. And oftentimes, talent is hard to find. And so when you tell an individual, it's going to take you 20 weeks to get here, that was problematic. So this 2-week process is for the NOC O and NOC A, and subject to being a complete application. So in situations where medicals or police clearances are required, subject to them all being submitted at the time of submission, should be processed 80% of the time in about 2 weeks. And from a processing standpoint, most of them are actually getting processed within Canada at the Case Processing Center in Vegreville. So moving on to the short-term work permit exemption, this was also launched with the launch of the global skills strategy. And the idea was to facilitate truly short-term intra-company work, or where individuals that are high-skilled, so again, in that national occupation classification O or A, were coming into Canada for a short period of time. So historically, companies needed individuals for a few days, but they were highly special, highly unique talent, but it was a long and lengthy, cumbersome process, especially if an LMIA was required. So this short-term work permit exemption, was launched to really facilitate that short-term work. So a temporary foreign worker can enter Canada up to 15 days in a 6-month period or 30 days in a 12-month period. And when I say 15, that's 15 cumulative days, and then 30. And we actually just in the last couple of weeks received confirmation that you can, in that 15 or 30-day, travel intermittently. So individuals that are coming up from the US or elsewhere and that want to go home for the weekend can still seek to rely on so this short-term work permit exemption is a really valuable added addition to the program, and we've definitely seen a lot of clients leverage this for that truly short-term work or services in Canada. And so there's a little bit of overlap between the dedicated service channel for ESDC and IRCC. So really what we call this is a concierge service. So it's really where there's account managers around and available once you've been referred in to help employers navigate the complexities of immigration. So to access the dedicated service channel on both the ESDC and IRCC side, the company does have to be referred by a designated referral partner. So I've listed a couple for our audience today, so in Ottawa and more or less in the Ontario area. So Invest Ottawa and MaRS, both of which Adam and Danielle are on the line, are designated referral partners. And then I've also included the link, so if you did want to see what other organizations are referral partnered, it is also available. So how do you access the dedicated service channel? So the eligibility criteria for both IRCC and ESDC is that the company is an innovative company. So what does that mean? So the company has to be operating in Canada, so they can incorporate a subsidiary, and there has to be a focus on innovation for new Canadian operations. That could be an innovative business model, it could be innovative R&D. So what we're seeing in the Ottawa market is a lot of the AVs, so the autonomous vehicles. So a lot of R&D facilities and companies coming up for that, and then commercialization of IP. And then the foreign company also has to demonstrate a willingness to grow. And I'll let Adam and Danielle add more in if they want, just on what kind of assessment factors go in. But at a high level, the assessment factors that are considered is that there's an average annualized growth greater than 10%. The annual revenues are more than $3 million over 3 years. So if it's a startup company, you can still potentially access this depending on your business plan and growth trajectory. Or there's significant investment of $5 million or more. Danielle, Adam, I'm going to ask you, did you want to add any comments now on this, or did you want to touch on it after?
No, nothing to add there. I think you've summed up the general, and then everything else is really on the website. And since we generally know our companies and work with them on their growth plans, we understand which ones fit the eligibility.
For sure.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, that's more or less what we see on our end as well. As we work with them, we know them, we know that they're growing, we know that it's worth X number of $1 million, and it's not insignificant, so we refer them.
Perfect. And then just a couple of caveats on the IRCC dedicated service channel for high potential, high growth companies. Again, this is still aligned with the concierge service, and the eligibility to be referred in under the IRCC branch is that the company has to be high potential and high growth. And so basically what will be considered is that the company will make a significant investment in Canada that will result in substantial improvement to the Canadian market, the economy, and really create jobs, not displace jobs. So those are the 3 pillars under the IRCC component of global skill strategy. And I'm going to talk through just the global talent stream, spend a few minutes on the global talent stream, and it will be great to hear from Shayla on how companies are actually using this and some of the successes they've had. So just from the legal or procedural standpoint, again, as mentioned, these are recruitment exempt labor market impact assessments, and there's 2 categories, Category A and Category B. So Category A is for that highly specialized talent, so a highly specialized temporary foreign worker. And to access Category A, you do have to be referred into the program by a designated service partner, such as MaRS or Invest Ottawa, or there's a list of about 14 others on the site. And so how do you define that you have a need as a company for highly specialized global talent? So the requirements that are really considered is that there's the individual has advanced knowledge of the industry. The individual should, in most instances, depending again, there is some leeway, an advanced degree in an area of specialization or interest to the employer, or a minimum of 5 years of experience. So what we often see in the ICT and STEM sectors is that people will have some really unique experience and they perhaps didn't finish that advanced degree, but they do have multiple years of really specialized in-depth experience. So that can fit in that highly specialized global talent. There is a minimum salary requirement, so of either $80,000 per year, or the median wage for the occupation, depending on which is higher. So there has been a lot of discussion, especially in the digital media sector, on that $80,000 could arguably be quite high for that industry, depending on the role. So there is ongoing consultations with ESDC and IRCC on this requirement, because there are definitely certain occupations in the ICT and STEM sectors that really they're competitive in the market and they're paying competitive amounts, but that $80,000 benchmark may be a little bit high. And then in addition, so once you're referred in and you can demonstrate that there's a need for highly specialized talent, one of the requirements to complete with the application is what's called a labor market benefit plan. So for individuals on the call who are familiar with a labor market impact assessment, it's similar to a transition plan, but not, and we'll talk through what the labor market benefit plan entails in a minute. And then I'll speak through category B, and then we'll work through the labor market benefit plan. So category B is for global talent occupations. So there's a global talent occupations list, which was developed prior to June 12th, where there was a skill shortage list developed. So ESDC, in conjunction with a number of stakeholders, developed this list of where there's truly occupations which the Canadian economy in various sectors are seeing a labor shortage. So assuming that your role qualifies under one of these 10 occupations, which we'll go through which I'll show you in a second, there is no minimum advertising requirements. There is a commitment to process 80% of the applications within 10 business days. And similar to category A, there is a requirement for a labor market benefit plan. So these are the 10 occupations on the list. So you'll see majority of them, if not all, are in the ICT and STEM sectors. ESDC has committed to reviewing this list at least on a biannual basis. So we could see some shifting in the occupations as the market changes. And then just wrapping up on so we've touched on this briefly. So part of category A and category B, to use the program, what is required is a labor market benefit plan. And so what the labor market benefit plan needs to do is work through some activities which will meet for category A and category B a mandatory benefit and a complementary benefit. So for the mandatory benefits, so for category A, there has to be a commitment to creating jobs. So if we revert back to category A, it's for that highly specialized, unique talent. So what is that talent going to do to your business, and how is that going to commit to jobs? And the labor market benefit plan does have to go into a significant amount of detail on certain plans, action items, which are tangible and achievable. Service Canada will work with companies to flesh this out, but you do have to demonstrate that there is a commitment to creating jobs for category A, and then at least 2 complementary benefits. So what does that role benefit your company, the Canadian economy, the Canadian labor market? And so certain complementary benefits can include investing in skills and training, which is a mandatory benefit under category B, transferring knowledge to Canadians, enhance company performance, and implementing best practices. So these are vague, and what is required when completing these labor market benefit plans is, so when you're going to put a focus on training, for example, what kind of training will be provided? How many hours per week will be provided? How will the training be delivered? And then ESDC will follow up on companies' commitments on 6-month check-ins. So I think what's not being talked about through this, and it's very exciting, and it is facilitating and attracting talent into Canada, is the compliance component of these applications. What we're seeing a lot is that companies are saying, yeah, this individual will create X, Y, and Z job, they'll provide this training, but there's a compliance back end, which we're finding that companies are making commitments, but not necessarily thinking that you can be audited on these items for the next 6 years. So it's really important when you're thinking these through that the activities that you're creating are sustainable within your business, that they're achievable, and that you are keeping Service Canada updated in the event that certain things change. So for example, if there's a commitment to hiring a certain amount of interns a year and then converting them into full-time employees following school, if the market conditions change or your business changes and you can no longer meet that commitment, it's really important to keep Service Canada up to date so that there is so that companies are remaining compliant with what they've committed to. And the last thing I'll add on the labor markets benefit plan is that Service Canada is really committed to working with companies to work these through. And so within at least within the 10 days from submission, a Service Canada officer will call the employer contact on the application and talk through the labor market benefit plan. And the clients we've worked with on this, typically there is some revisions required, but they will coach you through on what they're looking for, which is definitely a welcomed service offered by Service Canada, and they are being typically facilitated with these processes. So I'm going to just pass back to Danielle, who I think
okay, great. Thank you so much, Nadia. And I'm passing it back to Adam, who was cut off in the beginning. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect.
Adam, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Great.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a pause in my connectivity. So, so as I was saying, this program was quite timely for us. We were very pleased with its presence and signed up fairly early on. And our clients, as we've socialized to them, have been quite excited because, like most companies in Canada that are growing quickly in the technology space anyway, that are having this issue, talent and getting the talent is either the ability to grow or not grow. So in the case of Ottawa, our ecosystem is actively growing quite quickly right now. In particular, some of the areas that have been were a little slower throughout much of the 2000s. And so the industries are missing a lot of that intermediate level talent. They have the very senior people, and then beyond that, they have more junior people, in particular the optical photonics sector, which obviously builds the backhaul of the network, which is being stressed by software as a service and all of these lovely platforms that everybody is dreaming up, including many companies here locally. They need that talent. They need that talent to grow, and the universities that are still pushing that out are mostly located in other countries. There's a few in Canada, but they're not pushing it out in the quantity that's required. And the same would go on the ASIC, FPGA, and semiconductor spaces, which basically are also somewhat related to the photonics and next generation networks. So that's all growing at the same time that the software sector is growing, at the same time that all of these technology sectors are moving forward, and new and innovative companies are coming out, not only in Ottawa, but in other parts of the country as well. So, the only way that we're going to fill this gap is by bringing these in. So it was a timely program. Our industry needs to staff thousands of positions here in Ottawa in the next 3 to 5 years, probably 10,000 or more. The university pipeline is there, but it's able to fill a portion of that. It's not able to fill it all. So at the end of the day, in order for Ottawa Tech to go from its 75,000 approximate people working in the space, to 85 and 95,000, we're going to need immigrants, and we're going to need that immigrant talent that can come in and help us grow our city. So reception to it has been very positive. In terms of how we divide our ecosystem, we look at it in terms of telecom, software, aerospace, defense, and security, which includes cybersecurity, digital clean tech and life sciences. In the case of Invest Ottawa itself, I mean, we are sort of MaRS meets Communitech meets, Waterloo Economic Development in Toronto Global. We do the foreign direct investment to attract companies here. And so we want to help them grow. And, if we're attracting a company and they need to bring in some people, this is of assistance to that line of business as well, as the incubator and the high growth startup end of our house. So, that's a brief overview of what we've got in Ottawa from a technology standpoint, and like much of the rest of the country, it's growing. And so, we're excited to see, how this works out in the longer term, because we think that it plays a big role in where we're going.
Adam, thank you so much. Over to Ilya now to talk about VanHack.
Great. Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me again?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Full of puns here. All right. So just, okay, my slides are okay? Great. I'm seeing a nodding head. Great. So, VanHack, we are a online community, an online school of tech talent. We have about 100,000 members, most of which are developers, designers, digital marketers, and we help them get jobs abroad, mostly coming to Canada and other places all over Europe. So we work with a lot of different hiring partners around the world, some big names as you can see here, exemption.com, Kick in Ontario, Skip the Dishes in Winnipeg, and Thinkific, Traction on Demand, and many other companies around Canada, about 200 companies that we work with and help them find talent from. A couple success cases I'll just quickly share some cases of our talent. So Thinkific is probably one of our first and most exciting success cases. We helped them find 4 senior Ruby on Rails developers, one of which was a female. So one thing we really focus on is diversity, not just ethnic, but gender, and kind of helping companies tap into a global diverse talent pool that wants to relocate to their cities. So one thing that they said is they kind of went from picking and choosing and compromising on different roles to really being able to have be spoiled with this talent pool and kind of get the exact right candidate that they're looking for. In this case, 4 of them. With Traction on Demand, they had a pretty similar experience. They've hired 4 people, 4 VanHackers, and which was what we call our members, 3 of which are senior Java developers and 1 data engineer. And yeah, I guess very similar story. We were able to send them candidates within days and make hires very, very quickly. On the talent side, we really help them kind of open a door to a new city, a new country, a new life. So we really work closely with them to help them understand exactly what needs to be done, help them with their soft skills. And this is an example of a company called Pick-a-Tick out in the West Coast that hired a full stack web developer, Elise, join their team. We sent them about 6 female engineers, and they hired her. And then also Felipe, who is a senior Ruby on Rails developer, who got hired at Clio, which is a company in British Columbia as well. Very similar case. He's got 15 years experience. They couldn't find anyone in the local market, and we helped them find him very, very quickly. So really kind of what we do is we first understand who the best candidates are. We have an algorithm that goes through and kind of mines the best candidates in our talent pool. And then we send them a coding test. We also phone them, understand who they are, and do a communications test to make sure that they can speak English well. As Daniel said, code has no accent, but unfortunately English sometimes has a very heavy accent, and sometimes too much that people can't really speak at a good level yet. For those people, we have courses, and for others who are at a good level, we help them get to their dream jobs. And then, of course, we also do a cultural fit with our talent managers. So we're really referring people who are the right fit. Really what we like to say is that what we've been seeing is 90% of our roles get qualified candidates within 24 hours, and sometimes even within 1 or 2. And our record from new job to hire is 3 days. We just had one that was 7 days. We've seen that kind of be maybe more common for startups, and maybe a month or a month and a half for other companies. And the way we work is very simple. It's just 20% of annual salary with 3-month guarantee, so pretty similar in terms to industry. And we like to say, we kind of can add a new talent pool to a market. So there's probably, or there's definitely many more software engineers around the world that want to move to Ottawa than there are working in Ottawa right now, for example. That's who we are. We've finished the TechStars program in Berlin, and also we've done Startup Chile. We have a team of 14 people, and Fred and myself are the 2 founders. So thank you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end.
That's great. Thank you, Ilya. And the tech guys and gals that you're sending over, Ottawa and Toronto will split half-half. How's that?
There's plenty around to go around for everyone.
All right. So on to Shada. So Shada is the ops manager of EventMobi, again, a MaRS-supported venture. Shada, I know that EventMobi and yourself, you've been in business of hiring globally for quite a while, and then recently utilized this program. So I think you're an ideal case study. Over to you to talk about your process of utilizing the program and what you found.
Sure. So I'm Shada from EventMobi. I'm the senior operations manager here. And like Daniel said, yes, definitely we've used the program successfully. I think we were quite fortunate that we had MaRS backing us, so that definitely helped. We applied through category A. So having MaRS as a partner meant that things definitely worked faster for us, especially when we were contacted by the government and going through what was required from us. We were in the fortunate position of actually having 2 candidates who were ready to come on board round about the time that this program was released. One was from Russia, the other one was from Brazil. I did jump in, I think, legs first, not really realizing that there were a few pitfalls. So I think I'm going to come at this from the sort of organizational side and the pitfalls that you need to avoid. When we did the application within 2 weeks of the program being launched. So I think we were one of the first few applications. We were sort of contacted by ESDC within 3 days of the application being submitted, so that was really quick. We were fortunate in that I had filled in, the benefits plan, and it seemed to have been accepted at face value. So there was not much back and forth. So all in all, we got our LMI exempt certificate within 8 business days from submission. So that was really fast. And then, of course, it was onto the immigration side, which, of course, nobody seemed to be really too sure about how that would work because it was all so new. I asked questions about things like, for example, would the spouse be given a work permit as well? And nobody could really answer that. So it was trial and error for us. It's fortunate. I think this program is different from the other visa programs that are available because one of the advantages is that they allow the family to come through. They will give the spouse a work permit, which really helps. So that was really helpful. The other things that I came across was that one of the applicants, I didn't realize that their passport was going to expire in 11 months. And of course, this meant that instead of getting the 2-year work visa, they would only get an 11-month visa. So even though the LMI came through very quickly, I would say I sort of fell back a little bit by not actually checking that the passports were valid for 2 years. So I would say, make sure that before you go ahead and you're rushing to do this, that you actually check with the candidate that they have medicals done, that they have a police clearance certificate, that they have a valid passport, that they are able to move quickly, because this visa really does move very quickly. So, it kind of defeats the purpose if I know coming from South Africa, for example, that if you're trying to do the English proficiency test, that exam is only held once a month in a specific city. So, if you've missed that month and their bookings are all filled, it means that your candidate's not going to be able to come through as quickly as you'd like them to. So, I would say these are all the things that you need to ask before you actually put the person's name down on the application, because especially when you apply with category A, you're not allowed to substitute a name. So once you've put a candidate's name down and you've pay the processing fee, you are not able to change that. So these were just some of the pitfalls that I came across. Fortunately for us, our software developer from Russia, from day of application to the day he landed in the country was 5 weeks. He's up and running and working. The gentleman that's coming across from Brazil arrived last week, and again, that was the one we had a problem with the passport. Fortunately for us, Brazil did give him the passport a new passport fairly quickly, and the Canadian government was quite happy to hold back the processing of the immigration. So something to be in mind, that it's not the end of the world. Just don't apply with the old passport. Just rather do the new passport, and then you're going to get the full 2 years. Because what I did find out was that if only 11 months is on the passport, and they only given an 11-month work visa, what would happen is that in the 11th month, the gentleman would have actually had to leave the country and then reapply, because one of the conditions of the category A visa is that you need to do this the candidate needs to be out of the country. So that would have meant he would have had to leave work, and then you'd had to reapply, and nobody was too sure about how quickly this could be done or whether he'd be eligible to actually reapply. So that's, that was something to bear in mind. So we delayed his arrival in Canada by a month, but we've got 2 years out of that. One of the other things that I'd say people need to bear in mind is that when most of these candidates arrive in the country, you got to be mindful that they don't have credit ratings or credit history. So we really have been hand-holding them through this whole process, like making sure they get the SIM card, that they set up with travel insurance, because, for example, they're not applicable for OHIP. And these are things that, yes, if you live here, you're very aware of, but as a foreigner, you're not. And you don't realize, you just think you're given government help, and, it's just going to come along. You don't realize that there's a 90-day waiting period. So, just be mindful and hold their hands, babysit them a little bit. And I think the experience would be great. And I'm happy to say we have two happy engineers from Russia and Brazil at Event Mobi. And that's me.
Wow, that's such a rich example, Shada. Thank you so much for sharing. So at this point, I'm just going to quickly open it up to see if anyone has any specific questions. If not, I have a couple of questions that we are asked a lot that I will throw back to everyone. Okay. So one of the questions that I hear is, what about hiring from the U.S.? What about leveraging NAFTA? Shada, what if you're hiring a senior salesperson and they're American? Tell us about how you might utilize, what's different about the NAFTA route?
So coincidentally, we've actually just hired an information analyst from the U.S., and he arrived 3 weeks ago. So I haven't really done the sales, so I wouldn't be able to answer that, to be honest. I've only concentrated on the engineering side of it. So, the information analyst. I think it's very important that you realize you can't just hire anybody. There are very specific categories that you can bring somebody in across NAFTA. I would suggest that it's quite complicated. It's not as easy. I would say the talent global skills visa is a much easier way to do it. NAFTA, I would suggest that you actually use an immigration lawyer, because there's lots of questioning that goes on. You have to make sure that you are bringing in somebody incorrectly. You're not trying to sort of not follow all the rules. I would say if you're going to be coming through with NAFTA, use the services of an immigration lawyer, because there are lots of things that need to be taken care of.
Great. So one last question that we've gotten recently is just around what about if we're a Quebec-located company? And so just for anyone who has that question, recently the government did come out with the program for Quebec, and it's very, very similar, very much mirrors the current program for the rest of the country. So in case you're wondering about that, that is a program that's up and running in French and online. If there aren't any further questions, I'm going to wrap up by saying thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you for the presenters. I think this is, as we've all said, a really important channel that helps us build talent in the Canadian ecosystem. And MaRS, we're very excited to support these innovators and to see how we can take advantage of this program. And as VanHack says so beautifully, code really does have no accent. And it's great to go outside of the regular places to find great talent. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Danielle. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.